folks, Rod Moore here from the Learn to Paint Academy, and in this episode of Art Studio Chat, we're going to talk about how do you create colour harmony within your paintings. Okay, so I want to talk to you about how do you create colour harmony in your paintings. And this is about having an understanding of the colour wheel and understanding primary colours and secondary colours and using them to your advantage. One of the mistakes that you can make as a beginner when you're starting out is that you can try and put too many different colours all within the one painting. But paintings that seem to work the best have a particular colour scheme, and that's what we're going to talk about, is how do you create that colour scheme. So what we'll do is we'll go down to the palette and I'll just walk you through the basic colours that we're going to use, and then I'll do a little bit of a demonstration on the board, which will be an understanding of the colour wheel and colour harmony in that. So let's go to the palette here. So as you can see on our palette, we have the three primary colours. I've got a basic blue, which is probably a cobalt blue. I've got a medium red and a medium yellow, right? So there are our three primary colours on our colour wheel. And most of you will know that if you mix the two primary colours, you'll get a secondary colour, which blue and yellow would make green, and blue and red would make purple, red and yellow will make orange, okay? But just knowing that is probably not enough in and of itself. So what I'll do is I'll put these colours up onto our little board up here, and we'll have a play around with this. So I'll take some of this blue, and we'll go blue in this corner here. Okay, I want to do this as a little triangle, and you'll see why in a moment. Now I'll just make sure I clean the brush between each so we have fairly pure colour, or reasonably so. So that's our blue. We'll take some of this yellow here, and we'll pop the yellow in the top here. Okay, and this is a good little exercise to do at home. Do it on a panel like this, and pop it up on your studio wall, just to always remind you, what colour harmony is all about. And then we'll put our red over here. Okay, it's a nice punchy red, that one. Okay, so there are our three primary colours. Now, chances are good you already know that if you mix any two of those, you shall end up with a secondary colour. Okay, so let's mix our basic blue here, and we'll mix our yellow. I'll just want to try and keep this colour pure, so I'll take our palette knife and we'll pop those two in together there, and we'll mix those around, and that will give us a green. Okay, as you can see there. Now that's a little bit on the yellow side, so I'll just take a touch more blue. Okay, and that's a little bit more sort of midway there. Perhaps just a touch more yellow in there. Okay, so now if I pop that up as a secondary colour, water into that. So halfway between our blue and our yellow, we're going to have this green, right? Now we can take that green and we can push that green more yellow, and that will sit here, and that's what we would call a tertiary colour. Okay, so it's a yellowy green. Okay, or we can push that green more blue, and that creates a bluer green, like so. Okay, so what happens is we end up with this connection, really, as we come through, and we end up with, I haven't drawn that very well, but not to worry. Get our blue, I'll just re-establish that blue. Okay, so we've got this connection between yellow and blue, and that creates a colour scheme, which is, between the yellow and blue is mostly a green colour scheme. Okay, so when you're creating colour harmony within your paintings, you want to try and keep between two of the primaries. And I'll show you an example of this in a moment. Let me now go in and paint in the other two. I'll put this on fast forward so that you don't have to watch me do it. You get the basic idea, but I'll just quickly paint those in. Okay, now I've done this obviously a little bit rough, but that's okay. You get the general idea. We've got our, we're just strapping up our blue over here. I've lost that a little bit. So there's our blue. So we've got our three primary colors. We've got our yellow, our red, and our blue. And between each of the two primary colors, we have our secondary color, green, orange, and purple, right? So to create color harmony with your painting, you want to make sure predominantly your painting is between two of these primaries, either yellow and blue, which is green, so that would make a seascape or a landscape painting, typically, right? Or between yellow and red, which will give you an orange, right? So that could also be a landscape painting. It's going to be, you know, like a dry, arid sort of conditions, like the outback. Or you could create a color scheme between the red and the blue, which is predominantly purple, which might be good for nocturnal type paintings. But the key is to pick your two primaries as your two dominants and your secondary color, right? So you've got a color scheme that you're going to keep within that range. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you, for instance, decide to do a color scheme between the yellow and the red, so we're going to predominantly be in the oranges here, you always want to make sure that you have included in that painting what I call an accent color, which is the third primary, the blue. Just a little accent, because that will really go nicely against the predominant color scheme. So when you've got a color scheme that's predominantly between the blue and the purple, you want to have a little touch of yellow in there somewhere. And it's just like a little highlight or a little accent that you'll find will work really nicely. If you're doing a color scheme that is predominantly in the yellows to the blues here, a little pinhead of red somewhere there will just set it off nicely. And that's what I call an accent color, but in reality it's just adding a little bit of the third primary color into the mix. Okay, so if we have a look at this painting here, you can see that this is predominantly in the yellow to blue area. We've got blue and yellow in the sky, we've got blue and yellow in the water here, blue and yellow and obviously the secondary color of green all through the headlands here. So this painting is made up of 80 to 90% between the blue and the yellow range. So it's quite contained within that color scheme. And then I've used the oranges here just to put the highlights onto the rocks there. And that is it's not exactly the red that we talked about before, but it's close to the red. And that's what I call the accent color. That's what draws your eye in, is that accent color. So what I want you to start thinking about is which color scheme are you working with when you do your painting? Is it blue yellow, or is it yellow red, or is it red blue? And then what accent color do you just drop into the painting? Just subtly. Now there's a fair bit of it in here, but in the context of the overall painting, it's not that much. It's just a little accent color. So that's an example of a yellow-blue color scheme, right? Which predominantly landscape and seascape paintings are going to be. Let me show you another one, which is more on the yellow-red side. Okay, so this is the painting that I'm working on. It's nowhere near finished, but you can see in this automatically that there's a color scheme that's been established, which is yellow and red. It's that side of the color wheel, which is between the yellows and reds and the oranges, and I've gone for really earthy tones in this. Now this is a little bit of an abstract or semi-abstract painting, but you can see the general color scheme. 2/3 of it are in the yellow to red side. Now because it's got some sky, obviously it's going to be blue, but I could easily pick up some of this earthy reddy orange color and put it into some clouds up in here just to be consistent with that color scheme. But what would be the accent color of a yellow-red color scheme? It would be blue, right? It's the missing primary color, the third primary color. And I've got that naturally in here because of the sky. And I'm going to put a little bit of a dried up river here, and there's going to be a little bit of blue water, the last sort of remaining drops of the water. And you know, that blue is it works nicely against the earthy tones, the yellow reds, which are making the oranges, right? So that's an example of a painting that's predominantly on the yellow red side. It's a landscape painting, to be sure, but it's more of an arid desert, you know, outback type of painting. So hopefully between those two paintings you can see clear examples of focusing your painting in on a particular color scheme. So let me just move this out of the way. So just coming back to our little color wheel here, just remember you've got yellow and blue on one side of the color wheel. So the predominantly color scheme is sitting in between those two. Okay, the accent color would be red, the third primary. Then you've got yellow red, which is the orange side of the color wheel. The accent color would be blue. And then you've got red around the blue, which is all your purpley sort of tones. Your accent color is going to be yellow. And if you start to focus your paintings in, before you start a painting, if you start to ask yourself, what is my predominant color scheme in this painting, right? And then where can I add the accent color? It will improve the quality of your painting. It'll make them more cohesive and easier for the viewer to look at as well. Whereas the opposite, if you've got color all over the place, that can be a little bit challenging for people that don't know where to settle their eye within a painting. So I hope that helps. Let me know your thoughts and comments, and let me see some examples of your work done where you've really focused in on the right color scheme. Happy painting, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.